Okay then, quick one from me. Quick one for all classic rock fans, and especially those fans from across the pond that are now watching in the US of A. Van Halen, one of the classic rock bands of all time. What are your thoughts? Please tell me. I'd love to know. My thoughts? I'll give you my thoughts, no problem at all. Seeing them in the late 70s, they came over to this part of the world to promote the first ever LP, supporting Black Sabbath. They were absolutely out of this world good. Not just good, but out of this world. I can honestly say, other than possibly one band, I have never ever seen a band for the first time promoting a debut LP that were that good. Never. Absolutely, unbelievably good. In the days of old, when we used to go watching bands, which was probably 2 or 3 bands a week, believe it or not, we were very lucky, living not a million miles from a couple of concert halls. You'd often get decent support bands on, following the main band. And for the better ones, we'd go in and watch them. There was many bands we didn't bother with. We'd stay in the bar or in the pub and just come in for the main band. But you normally found the better the support band was, the worse the sound was. Because if the main band were concerned about the support band being better than them, they normally doctored the sound before they started. They either turned it down, or they had it too sharp or too bassy, or they just messed it all around. And we were worried that would be the case with Van Halen. Now, as for them as a band, we knew about them probably only 6 weeks before they hit Great Britain. We'd got the debut LP, a couple of us had, and we listened to it, and we played it off the turntable. We were absolutely full of anticipations that, go and see them. We like Sabbath as well, we love Sabbath as well. We were young rockers, but Van Halen were the big upcoming thing from America, and it was something unlike anything we'd heard before. The vocals by Diamond Dave were just brilliant, just totally different. Eddie's guitaring, sensational. I mean, I'll be honest with you, we didn't think he'd be able to do live what he did in the studio. We didn't expect that. More about that in a moment. But really polished, really tight, fantastic songs. I mean, that debut LP, if somebody can tell me a weak song on there, then I'm going to argue you're wrong. Yeah, you might mention Ice Cream Man, but in its own way, still brilliant. Just a fantastic LP, and we just couldn't wait. I can honestly say I've never looked forward to a support band as much as I did Van Halen that night. But as I say, we was concerned about the sound. Anyway, we got in nice and early. We had great seats. We came to watch them, and I've got to say, hats off to Sabbath. They didn't mess with the sound one iota. And that night, Van Halen were just absolutely brilliant. They weren't good. They were absolutely brilliant. Oh my God, to say they were worth the wait was an understatement. If the power had gone off in the concert hall after they'd gone off and we had to go home and miss Black Sabbath, I'd have still happily paid full ticket money. That's how good they were. In fact, I thought of something early before deciding to do this video, and it's only come to me today, weirdly, 40 odd years after I've first seen them. And I was thinking about, is it Mickey Anthony and Eddie's brother there on drums? I don't know how good they were. I don't know what Mickey was like as a bass guitarist, and I don't know what their kid was like on the drums. And the reason for that is I've never been able to take my eyes off of Diamond Dave and Eddie, ever. And I've never had that before with any band. I've seen absolutely out of this world drummers, out of this world bass players, although there's not been many of those, certainly out of this world guitarists, and brilliant frontmen. But I've never just focused on one person or two people throughout and not really picked up on the other two. But Van Halen were that good, or should I say Lee Roth at what he did, and Eddie were that good. I didn't notice the other two, and that's awful, that really, but I didn't. They were just out of this world good. I mean, they were that brilliant that night. I mean, they got an encore, which bands didn't normally do, support bands, and I'm pretty sure, because they had a limited catalogue, I'm pretty sure they did the whole LP in its entirety, and I think they did probably as an encore, You Really Got Me a second time, or maybe it was Ain't Talking About Love. I think it was one of those two, because they had no more songs to fall back on. But oh my God, they were brilliant, and they went down they really went down. And Sabbath fans aren't Van Halen fans. It's a totally different kind of music for all it's heavy rock, and I think a lot of the Sabbath fans didn't know what to expect and weren't lovers of theirs, didn't know them. But I think within a couple of songs, people realised, oh my God, we've got something here. we've got something here that we're going to hear about for a long, long time to come. And we did, you know, and just, amazing band, just brilliant. As I say, as good as any debut LP, debut tour I've ever seen, and possibly the best, just brilliant. Eddie Van Halen, I mean, he did Eruption, I said I'd mentioned some of the shortly, he did Eruption, and the place did that, it erupted. I didn't think he could do on record, or he could do live what he did on record there. It was brilliant. It's probably the most exciting 3 minutes, or 2.5 minutes was it, that I've ever seen in a concert hall. You know, certainly the most blow me away moment I've ever seen in a concert hall. For one song to take it from where it started to where it ended in that 2.5 minutes was just a thing of absolute brilliance. Good God, he was good. And we've got some great guitarists. I mean, Clapton and the other fella, the Clapton here, they were before my time really. Hendrix was before my time. But we've got people like sort of Jimmy Page, Richie Blackmore, Gary Moore, Schenker, yeah, for all his German was over here with UFO. There's 4, before you start, brilliant guitarists, and all in their own ways as good as virtually anybody on the planet. But Eddie Van Halen was just something else. He was just, it was mind blowing. And old Diamond Dave at the front there, I've never seen a frontman command the stage like he did ever. And I mean, of all the frontmen, I have never seen a frontman. Prance is probably an awful word and a wrong word, but that's what he did. He pranced along across the stage. We all know he could have been. Was he a gymnast? Or he certainly could have been. We've seen him in the was it Just Like Paradise videos where he's going from mountain peak to mountain peak on ropes, and is he abseiling? Is he climbing? He's doing a bit of everything. We know he's athletic, but on the stage he moved around and jumped around and doing the cartwheels and the things with the swords, and he was just unbelievable. It was just fantastic, and the day they finally split, I mean, I was gutted, absolutely gutted. You know, it was always probably going to happen, because no one could ever keep Diamond Dave in check, nobody. I mean, he didn't know what he was going to do next, so how would the other 3 band members know? You never would. And for all they did 2 or 3 great songs with Agar, you know, they probably did more than that, but there's only sort of 2 or 3 that I listen to, because I tended to have more of the Lee Roth collection than the Hagar collection. For me, it was always Lee Roth. I'm always for bands as they start rather than as they end, and it was always Lee Roth in my mind. But you know, I mean, I used to say to people, I mean, on American Idol, that Steve Tyler, he's probably the best judge I've ever seen in Britain or in the USA on a talent show. He was just gold. He was brilliant. But I said to people, if they had Lee Roth on there, he would be another couple of levels up. The problem is, again, he wouldn't know what he was going to say. The producers wouldn't know what he was going to say. They'd have the hearts in their mouths. It just couldn't work, because nobody could keep him in check. The sad thing is, we've seen Lee Roth about 15, 20 years later, back in Manchester again. The same concert hall, it was the Apollo in Manchester, at Hardwick there, which is where we've seen Van Halen all the years before. And it was sad, it was really sad. Some of his struggles have been documented, but I think that night, and I'm not an expert on these things, but I think as well as maybe having issues with drink and possibly even drugs, I think he had a depression issue and not depression, mental health issues. I think he was mentally unstable that night. There was something wrong, I think. The vocals were bad. The vocals were also all over the place. But he did a lot of mumbling. His communication was just really poor, and it was a shame to see. It was a shame to see. But you know, they came back. They did that LP. I love the Tattoo. I love that song. I love the words, and I thought they were great. Vocals on it, great. The whole thing was really, really good. But I've got to say, I've seen him on some talk shows in America, obviously only on YouTube over here, and I'd seen him in concert in America. I mean, I always wish they'd have come to Britain again, and I'd have got to see them again with Lee Roth fronting them, and it never ever happened, unfortunately, and it obviously never now will with Eddie's sad passing. But I've seen him in concerts over there, and that wasn't the Lee Roth from the late 70s. You know, he does a lot of shouting, a lot of screaming, a lot of talking when he should be singing, and in place of a lot of the high notes, which I'm probably of the opinion he can't get to anymore. You know, and it's weird. It used to make me think, over the last few years I've seen him and I've thought, was he that good in the 70s? Was he that good? Was he as good as I thought he was? Because your memories can play tricks, and I know more about music now than I did then. I'm older and maybe wiser now. The crowd could have been really, really loud, and he might not have been that good, but maybe I couldn't hear him. And I think, is he one of them vocalists that's never been able to sing and always only done it on record? But then I chastised myself and said, no, that's not the case. He was out of this world that night, and I'm sure he was, and that's how I want to remember old Diamond Dave. I want to remember him that way, because that night in Manchester, that they just blew me away, and all I remember was him and Eddie. That's all I remember. But if I'm correct, and I think I am, I don't think in the last 15 or 20 years of Lee Roth's singing career he's got anywhere near those heights. I think his voice has gone. I've seen very few performances on YouTube over the last 15 years where I think, God, he sounds good there. God, he sounds good. I actually seen him doing a little thing where, is it for TV, where it is maybe himself and Eddie. I think it was. And they just sort of jamming, sat against a wall. I think on a bench, sat against a wall. And Eddie's playing his guitar, and Dave's singing with his riffing, I think they call it now. And he sounded pretty good there, because he's still got some runs and some things within his voice, and he can do some things that others can't do, and he improvises well. But I thought the quality of his singing, when I've seen him live, has not been on point now. I don't know if I'm right there. I don't want to call somebody that I used to love, because I used to absolutely adore him. I thought it was brilliant. And I mean, even his solo career, when he came out, I mean, that California Girls, I think it is, the Beach Boys song, when he did that, that's one of the best videos I've ever seen. Just because it's just enjoyable. It's just absolutely brilliant. And songs like Just Like Paradise, again, great videos, but great songs. He did some great songs with his own band, but they were never Van Halen, were they? Never Van Halen. They're a band I miss. They're a band I miss. And they're a band that, for all they were huge and ginormous and brilliant and awesome and exciting and entertaining, they're a band that probably really fizzled out too quickly, too soon. They're a band that could have always probably given us more. And it's a shame that they never, because Lee Roth at his best, wow. And Eddie, there will never be another Eddie. Never another Eddie. Anyway, your thoughts, tell me what you think. Comments down below. But I, for one, absolutely loved him. And the late 70s in Manchester, in the Apollo, at Hardwick Green, supporting Black Sabbath, one of the greatest concert nights of my life. And honestly, as I say, Sabbath were good that night, by the way. They weren't bad, they were good. But Van Halen blew them away. It wasn't even a contest, If it was a boxing match, they'd have been counted out before the end of round one. That's how good Van Halen were that night. Anyway, your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear from you.